I pick up the phone, dial the number, a physical connection is made. My voice is carried over a wire to the other person. But what I'm really trying to do is share my ideas, my thoughts with others. The telephone, big deal. Everyone uses it. But it's amazing to imagine that people were once afraid to use the telephone. We've learned how to use this tool to our advantage, to communicate.
This book was published by the Parisian printer Claude Chevallon in 1530. At the time, the university in Paris, the Sorbonne, was trying to stop the spread of new theological ideas. Erasmus of Rotterdam, who edited the book, was on the Sorbonne's forbidden list, so the university tried to prevent the book's publication. But Chevallon printed it anyway, and libraries all over Europe quietly added it to their collections. The story of this book, and the fact that it can be found today in a Canadian library, illustrates two things. One, there will always be some people who think we shouldn't read certain things. And second, it's a good thing libraries have been around to collect and disseminate a lot of those things that some people think we shouldn't read. We don't print books on hand-operated presses anymore. The technology of information has developed so dramatically that the equivalent of 100 books can now be contained on one disc. But someone is still going to want to control what you read, and it's still good to have libraries to collect, preserve, and pass on information.
Libraries have been the site of a tremendous amount of censorship and attempts at censorship. For instance, most great pornography collections are held in libraries. They are also very, very important chroniclers of our inhumanity to one another. But at the same time, they're very interesting in that they record both sides of humanity. Those kinds of things that we like to think are very redeeming, and those sorts of things that some of us aren't very proud of when we think of ourselves as human beings. But that's very important, because by recording both sides of what we are, we have a living record of what we are. And someday, somewhere, when questions arise as to what should we be doing, what have we been doing, there are libraries somewhere that will bear living testament to the fact that we have been doing these kinds of things and have an opportunity to do other sorts of things.
Libraries. They may be the most taken for granted institutions in the world. Why do we have libraries? Why is it so essential to the health of our culture that libraries acquire all kinds of books, no matter how radical or repugnant they may seem to be? And why are libraries so central to the development of knowledge? Our desire to share our understanding of the world led to the development of verbal and pictorial communication. Pictures became increasingly symbolic and abstract, until in many cultures, written symbols came to represent not concrete objects, but language itself. The phonetic alphabet, as a medium of communication, had lots of advantages over pictures. It could be standardized so that ideas of great complexity and abstraction could be communicated precisely.
People often say that the Greeks gave us democracy. This is true in a sense, though it's true in a different sense than most people realize. As a matter of fact, our political institutions owe very little to the procedures of Athenian democracy. But one thing that the Greeks did invent, which is very important to our democracy, is the alphabet. An alphabet is a system of writing in which each symbol has one and only one meaning. Therefore, it is very clear and is not ambiguous. You always know exactly what sound a word has. Because it is so clear, because it is so simple, and because it is not ambiguous, it is very easy to learn. Therefore, since it's easy to learn, it is open and accessible to everybody. In a word, it is democratic. Reading and writing and critical thought in the Western tradition all depend on the alphabet. And of course, critical thought is the essence of democracy, the ability to debate and argue about issues. Now, argument and debate, of course, are of no use whatsoever without information, without facts. And for facts, well, that's where the library comes in.
Squash. Gourd. Zucchini. List. Rutabaga.
The technology of information took a giant step forward when, in the ancient Near East, people began writing on scrolls made of papyrus. These scrolls had two important features. They were portable, and they contained a lot of information in a relatively small package. Information became a commodity that you could buy, sell, trade, or monopolize for your own purposes. If you were rich enough and had a big enough house, it became possible for you to own, in a sense, everything that was known about the world. In other words, it became possible to own a library. Those who were interested in the world of ideas, like the ancient Greek philosophers, started making collections of scrolls for the use of their circle of students. The philosopher Aristotle founded one of the most famous libraries of the ancient world and organized it systematically with the intention that it would foster scientific research. He believed that you could not create new knowledge unless you built it on the foundation of already existing knowledge.
Hi, Athena. Look what I've made. It spins.
Oh, Zeus. That's very brave of you. I've made something too. I found the instructions in Athenian Mechanics Illustrated.
Although their libraries were still used only by a small educated elite, we owe to the Greeks the idea of a library as a public institution, maintained for the benefit of the whole community. The Great Library and Museum of Alexandria was the most significant realization of this ideal in the ancient world. Later, when the church began producing bound volumes, the ancient technology of handwritten manuscripts continued to have its drawbacks.
Brother Junius, another copy of Augustine's Confessions. By tomorrow morning, please.
Books were rare and easy prey to all kinds of disasters, not all of them natural. The great library of Alexandria contained about 125,000 volumes. When the Romans finished their siege, and later when Christian zealots burned down the temple that housed the library, nothing remained. Whether or not the books were destroyed on purpose, no one knows for sure. But it is possible that the destruction of the Alexandrian library was an early example of what has proven to be a very popular pastime in Western civilization: the suppression of knowledge for political and religious purposes.
The invention of movable type printing had a dramatic effect on the dissemination of ideas. Prior to this development, ideas were mostly circulated through hand-copied manuscripts in the language of a small educated elite, namely Latin. When Galileo wrote his ideas about the restructuring of the universe, he did so in a language that many more could read. He chose to write it in Italian, vernacular language where he lived, and that meant that his ideas became much more widely known. When the church, who objected to these ideas, wanted to control them, they discovered how difficult it was because they were widely out there. So that the development of movable type printing was an important step in reducing other people's control over your ideas.
Books became a product in the modern sense, a uniformly repeatable commodity. And the newly founded universities of Europe became the prime consumers of this product. Libraries had to deal not only with the increasing volume of their collections, but with the increasing demand for the use of the books. It was a colossal organizational problem. And as with everything, libraries went down a few blind alleys before they discovered ways of organizing their collections that really worked.
Here at the new Archimedes School of Leverage, we encourage order and discipline in every facet of life. And I like to think my own library represents that ideal. I've developed a method of organizing my books which suits my needs perfectly. Here, let me show you. Now, these books here describe a perfect triangle. It's an isosceles, actually, my favorite kind. And on this shelf, we have an inclined plane of about 9 degrees, give or take a degree. And here we have a bar graph, which represents my tab at the faculty club last year. Well, but wait, I have a very nice rhombus I haven't shown you yet, and my parallelogram is perfectly proportionate.
Libraries tried several methods of organization which were, to say the least, limited in their usefulness. The method of organization that worked best, and was really a refinement of Aristotle's method, was to put books into classes according to their subject matter, and then file these subject classes together on the shelf.
I don't know how many books Aristotle had to catalog, but I do know that he didn't have 22 million of them. 22 million is the number of books currently housed in the Library of Congress. It's the largest library in the world, and it's the library that nearly all universities in North America use when they're setting up a classification system. By sharing the Library of Congress classification system, librarians know that they can confidently catalog a book according to the material that's in it, and that they can shelve a book alongside other books that have roughly the same information. And that means that when a user in any library that uses that system is looking for a certain kind of information, and when they go to the place on the shelves where that book lives, that they can be very confident that what they're looking for is what they're going to find.
Love in boldface.
Open bracket. Manners and customs closed bracket. Call numbers GT 2600 to GT 2640. Inclusive?
Used for affection. In broader terms, emotions.
In narrower terms, attachment, behavior.
Related terms. First loves, intimacy, friendship. Open bracket, courtship.
Closed bracket.
Pardon me. The Library of Congress catalog system has become the language of most North American libraries. The Library of Congress divides books into subject categories designated by capital letters. A covers general works, B through P, humanities and social science, Q through V, science and technology, and Z covers bibliography and library science. The system then subdivides knowledge into finer categories using a code made up of letters and numbers. Just because books on the same subject are filed together on the shelves doesn't mean that you can just cruise the shelves in order to find everything that a library has to offer on a certain topic. That would be the case if books dealt with only one subject, but they rarely do. Let me show you what I mean. This book is called A Flannel Shirt and Liberty. It's a collection of memoirs written by middle-class British women who emigrated to the Canadian West. So it deals with at least 3 subjects: history of women in Western Canada, social conditions of British women, and immigration to Canada. 3 subjects, but only 1 book. I see it's been assigned an HQ call number, which means that it's filed on the shelves with other books dealing with the social conditions of British women. But it's cataloged under all 3 subjects. Catalogs, a list of the contents of a given library, are as old as libraries themselves. Whether a catalog is on vellum or parchment or paper, or in a card catalog or on microfiche or stored in a computer database, the principle is still the same. It's a list of the holdings of a library, arranged in various ways so people can find what they want. Today, a researcher in Jakarta can finish an article and fax it directly to their publisher in, say, Toronto, instantly. The publisher can have the article typeset and ready for the printer the same day. Scientists and scholars keep on top of this information explosion by reading bulletins, newsletters, and journals. The most recent information and the most controversial research make their debut in this form. Because there are literally thousands of journals and scholarly magazines producing new material constantly, special periodical indexes and abstracts are used to locate articles on a particular subject.
I think there comes a time when you have a sense of power over the library. At first, it seems as if there's so much information you don't know where to begin, or you can't find the information that you need. Then, one day, it all seems to fall into place, and suddenly you have all this information at your disposal. I remember having to do a series of research assignments in the second year. Initially, you didn't know where to look because some of the stuff seemed so obscure. But gradually, after stumbling along and asking a lot of questions, you got to know the resource materials. All kinds of obscure books you didn't know existed before, but which isolate specific types of information that, once you know where to find them, save you a lot of time in the end. I think you have to work through learning how to use the library. It may take a while, but once you develop a system of sorts, you not only do better research, but you do it a lot more efficiently.
The universe of knowledge, of which the library is keeper, has become increasingly fragmented. The branches of knowledge, the disciplines, have evolved so that they appear compartmentalized. They seem to bear less and less relationship to each other. Now, more than ever, it's up to each of us to make sense of the world around us by making those connections ourselves. The library can give us the pieces, but we have to put them together.
Is Diane there, please?
No, Diane. No, Diane here. Must have the wrong number.
Oh, is this 542-7279?
No, it isn't.
Oh, I'll try again. I'm sorry.
Okay, bye.